This episode of Close Up, I am joined by a man that was sidelined for nearly 7 months with a torn patella tendon. Here he is, Powerhouse Hobbs. Will Hobbs,
Yes.
Welcome back to AEW. Obviously, you were gone for quite some time. We're going to talk about all that, but I want to talk about when you came back, because I did not know that was happening that night with Ricochet. Blew my mind to see your entrance, to see you walking out with him. What did that feel like for you to finally come back and have that moment and get in that ring?
I think the word for me is just anxious. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how anybody was gonna, take me back in, and it was one of those moments where I was just like, okay, I was meant to do this. I was pissed off, and it's just gunning it. Like, that whole day kind of was a blur until my music hit, and it was just like, okay, I'm back, I'm home. Let's pick up where we left off.
What do you think that's about? I feel like that's such a common thing that I hear from wrestlers when you're gone for a certain amount of time and then you come back. That feeling of like, what is the reaction going to be? Are people going to remember me? Or is this like all those things that get rattled off? Why do you think that is?
For me, is because I love this. I know a lot of wrestlers say they love the business, but for me, I've loved this since my grandma took me to my first show. When I sat with her at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, and it's one of those things like being injured. I didn't know how much I missed this. Mm-hmm. How much I loved it. I even miss being stuck on a plane. Like if my flight would have got delayed, I was like, okay, we're back to normal, But it's one of those things like I really missed.
So being gone, talk to me about that injury, because you were doing a lot right before that injury happened. A lot of steam was behind Will Hobbs, and then that comes to a screeching halt.
For me, like when the injury happened, it was a pop.
Yeah.
And I was shot over 10 years ago, and it felt just like that. And I knew we're in Daly's place. I'm like, okay, nobody's got no guns in here. I didn't get shot, but then I couldn't extend my leg. Mm-hmm. And the thing with me is like, okay, I'm in the main event, national TV, IWGP heavyweight championship against Jon Moxley. The ref is checking on me, and I'm like, man, like, I survived a lot of shit, and it's just like, I'm not gonna die from this injury. Mm-hmm. So I tried my best to continue, and it was one of those things, and when I look back at it, I was like, okay, for me personally, I did the right thing. Maybe from a medical standpoint, I should have said no, but like, my grandma and grandpa didn't raise any punks. So it's one of those things. People paid to see me in action, and it's just like, man, it's kind of just, I felt like I disappointed a lot of people.
Well, how did you feel about it? Because like I said, you had a lot of steam going on. There was a lot happening for you to then be sidelined and knowing you're going to be out for X amount of time. That's a really stressful time in anyone's career. Talk to me about the emotional side of going through this injury, being at home, being sidelined, having your career come to a screeching halt, having to deal with this injury.
I was on a roll. Once the injury happened and, I found out I'm going to need surgery, that depression sunk in. I've been depressed before, just when my brother got murdered, he pushed me out the way. Took 6 bullets to the chest. I took 1 to the forearm, and it's just all these feelings start coming back, all these what ifs, and what am I gonna do now? And it's just I didn't know what I was gonna do. Obviously, in our sport, people get injured, things happen, and then for me, it's like I'm greedy. I didn't want to give up anything. If I could have taped my knee up and just went, like I would have done that. But it's one of those things where everyone's telling me things happen for a reason, and I didn't.
Which is such an annoying thing to hear when you're in the midst of that.
Yeah, I didn't want to hear anything. Like I was for a while. Like I didn't give about anybody. Didn't want to hear what they had to say because I knew where this could have took my career, and it's just like I said, it's one of those things like watching my brother get murdered, it's just it brought back all the feelings of what if, what's gonna happen now, and it's just like it brings a lot of anger in my heart.
I don't see you as an angry person all the time. I see you as usually collected, calm, cool. How do you channel those things? I mean, having gone through that, having seen your brother being murdered, being on the road, having your goals that you want to accomplish, having kids to raise, like you have so much on your plate. How do you juggle all that stuff?
I just think the first thing I think about when I get upset is my kids. Is it going to affect my kids? Is my whatever my action is, if I do something, is it going to affect them? And so me being a father, me being a provider, I have to make sure they're okay. So when I know when I can't like do what I want to do, I think about them. But going forward, when I'm in the ring, everything that has happened to me, can I say, like, just whatever emotional feeling I'm feeling, I get to take it out in there. I've been having a chip on my shoulder for the past 4.5 years. And the worst part about it now is that I'm angry in my heart.
Yeah.
Like, I hated sitting at home watching everyone wrestle week to week. I didn't like anybody. Like, I hated everybody on the roster. And I know that sounds, but I wanted to be there. That's supposed to be me.
So now you're here, you're back, you're thrown into the mix of things. What do you want to do with this version of Will Hobbs, this guy that has been injured, that is dealing with this anger in your heart? How do you translate that into the ring?
Everybody should just be afraid. I'm from a 2 square mile city, East Palo Alto. Used to be the murder capital of the U.S. Like, everyone needs to be afraid. And I don't say it to intimidate anyone. It's just, you're going to see a version of Will Hobbs and Will Hobson. And I think the mixture of those two people was dangerous.
Give us a little context of that. I mean, when you hear Oakland and growing up in Oakland, the part of town that you grew up in, what was that like? Talk to me about growing up, being a kid, seeing some of the things that you saw and how much that has shaped you as a man. I mean, you obviously have been through so much.
I mean, when it's like 5 o'clock in the evening and the sun is out and the street lights come on, my grandma tells me, get your ass in the house. It's time to get in because things happen. I've seen people stabbed, shot in a corner. Like, I remember being 5 years old, having a Scooby-Doo backpack and someone putting something in my backpack saying, go take that to that house. Like, it was rough. Like, we government aid and, not knowing we were poor, until people wanted to make fun of us. And it's just all the things I've seen. Like, it's just, I feel in order for me to accomplish my goals, I need to bring that in there. Because I think for the past 4.5 years, I've been this person that's done everything by the book and waited my turn, and it's time that I just start taking. Because there's a lot of people that brag about what they have and what they got here, and me personally is first thing I think of. Okay, well, I got to be where I'm from. You bragging what you got, I'm just gonna take. Like, I'm gonna take it and do something about it. Like, the person you see out there sometimes, a lot of people get it mixed up. It's like, I think I'm just gonna have to show people I actually can fight. Like, I'm not just this big guy that likes to lift weights. Like, like, I can fight. So I just, like, I don't know. I get nervous talking about it because it's one of those things where, like, I know what I can do, what damage I can cause, and somebody's gonna get hurt. Like, I just like this is just a warning. Like, I can't. Sometimes there's no control in my anger, and I've had those moments as a kid being scolded because you gotta watch yourself because it's gonna put you in jail, or have you killed,
Has that been like a thing that you've had to work through of like channeling your
Oh,
anger and
yeah,
like
yeah.
using it in the right place. Because like I said, it's like I know a version of you, but I know that there's obviously a version of you that I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've had someone bump into my sister in the hallway, and I just got mad and beat the shit out of them. Like I've had people while I'm out and about bump into my kids by accident, and they don't say excuse me or sorry, and I just instantly have this like anger where I just get pissed off, and it's one of those things like I had to go to therapy for it, and I know that there's a consequence if I do something. This is my job here, so I actually can do something and not get in trouble.
Did you ever feel when you were growing up, I mean, talking about being 5 years old and seeing those things and, you know, being put in those situations, was it hard to have a dream, like doing something like this and feeling like that was something that you could achieve while seeing all this other stuff around you happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like you either wanted to play football, basketball, or baseball. Like everybody watched wrestling and it was a cool thing, but I got made fun of because I wanted to be a wrestler. Oh, you're gonna wear those Speedos, and oh, okay, look at you. Well, it's like I got 3 friends that I grew up with, and the rest are in San Quentin, incarcerated in a federal penitentiary, or they're either in Altabate Cemetery or Skyline Cemetery. So I it's one of those things like my grandparents like, no, you're not gonna hang out on the corner. You're gonna do what we tell you, or pretty much my grandma was a type to get the out of my house. So I had to listen to her, but it's just one of those things, man. Like I'm thankful for how I grew up because it shaped me, and I get to, you know, sometimes speak to kids that were in my position, or how I was growing up. But there's so much I want to do, and it's just like it's time. Like I just need to just
It's time to do it.
show it.
On our way up here to sit down and talk to each other, we were talking about Thanksgiving and how you're going to your grandmother's and the anxiety that comes with going to her house, which, you know, just to provide the context, that's where that'll happen with your brother,
Yeah,
right?
that's where it happened with him being killed and me being shot. Like
And you've not been back there since?
I haven't. I don't. It's one of those things. Like if I have to go, I'll drive by and just think of some excuse to not go, and I have to park my car in the driveway when I get there and walk through the grass where everything happened. And I just like I can close my eyes and just picture him gasping for air and blood shooting out. Like I just, you know, but it's got to get done. So I just.
You and your brother had dreams of being in wrestling
Yeah,
together?
he's supposed to be my manager.
Yeah.
You know, he's supposed to be my manager right there, but everything I achieved here is like, it's for him.
What would he think of all this?
I think he would find something to make fun of me about, but you know, he would be very proud. You know, it's just one of those things. Whenever he was proud of me, he would put his arm around me and, you know, and kiss me on top of the head. You know, so I just got to remember where I came from, and how I've struggled, and it's just one of those things, man. I just feel bad for anybody who's in the ring with me because it's not gonna be like the Powerhouse Hobbs, the Will Hobbs you've seen the past 4.5 years.
When do we get to see this? When's he going to be unleashed?
Every time I get in the ring from this point, like it's one of those feelings like.
Is that sort of like a promise that you've made to yourself that now it's time to like?
Yeah, it's a promise I've made to myself, and I've sworn on my mother's grave, and I can't go back, and it's just like I'm to the point now where I'm gonna start taking everything. Like it doesn't matter who notices or who gets mad, or because my first instinct is if you're mad, let's step outside. You know, but I can't do that all the time. But it's like I'm tired of being overlooked and overshadowed. So if I got to ruffle some feathers, then so be it.
Yeah. Also, just being out with injury and having another humbling experience of having to rely on your kids to help you with stuff that you've never needed help with before. Like, that affects a person. When you are that strong figure in your house and all of a sudden you need help, that's a rough spot to be in.
Yeah, it makes me angry. Cause like my leg was immobilized for 3 months. That's just straight, can't bend it, can't do anything.
Got a nice scar.
Like I just, oh yeah, cocoa butter, didn't really keloid, but like, I'm having to ask my 18-year-old son to help me in and out the shower, help me off the toilet, asking my 3-year-old daughter at the time to help me take off my socks. Like I shouldn't be having to have I shouldn't be depending on my kids to help me, because I'm not at that age yet. So that really pissed me off. Oh man, like that I don't like that at all, because I'm supposed to be the provider and taking care of my kids and doing those things for them, and it's just having them do things for me that I took granted. Mm-hmm. Like I took driving to the store for granted. Stepping into the bathtub, like I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because one slip, an hour and a half work of or being in surgery is all out the window.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where now I'm like, somebody's gonna have to pay.
As a parent, and understanding how hard it is to do this job, to be on the road, to accomplish your dreams, and having these eyes looking up to you, to be home and do the things and drop them off to school and get their lunches ready and do all of these things. For you to be doing all that as a single parent, how do you juggle that?
It's hard. You just have to do it. There's no explanation. You just have to do it because they depend on you. Mm-hmm. So, for people out there who don't have kids, once you do, or if you choose to do, or if you have someone depending on you, you can't second guess. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
So, you know that.
I do know that.
It's just, one of the good things was, like, I got to have my daughter paint my toenails and do my hair and having tea parties. And,
yeah.
When I was...
Don't ever let those photos leak.
Hey, I'm all right. I'm all right with it.
We all have a few on our phone.
But when I was able to, like, bend my knee and, kind of get back to doing the things, it was good picking them up from school, taking them to school, things like that. But, yeah, it was a long process, because it was one of those things where I could have just sat on the couch and moped and have everyone feel my type of emotion, my energy.
Obviously some people have been like reaching out to you and giving you some advice and trying to keep you on track, because it's very easy to slip into a dark state of mind like that. What was some of the information that you got from people about how to deal with that?
Books to read, get back in the gym. I'm gonna say it was 4 days after I had surgery, I was back in the gym.
You're gnarly, dude.
Yeah, it's 4 days. It was like I couldn't do everything I wanted to do, but just being there doing the movement. So get up at 5 a.m., eat in the gym by 7 o'clock, go home, check on everybody, go to PT for 3 hours a day, 6 days a week.
3 hours a day?
Yeah. That was my job.
Whew.
My job was to come back better than what from when I left. Like I pride myself on the things I do, and just one of those things wasn't going to be coming back like being right where I was. I had to be better.
Yeah.
And it's just like being humble doing stuff with 5-pound weights, not being able to just squat, holding on to 2 women half my size, like trying to hold me up while I'm trying to like bend my knee, and just working on my agility and balancing, and sitting in this machine where I had to crank my leg back and try to get my full range of motion. And just like, it was scary, but it was humbling. And, you know, my job was to come back. Like, I'm being paid to come back better.
Before we wrap up here, I just want to take you back to that night at Daly's place with the injury in the ring with Jon Moxley. You've seen all of the stuff that he's obviously done since you've been gone, where he's at now career-wise, company-wise. Is that something, do you hold any resentment towards him with what happened in the ring and what happened to you being set back?
Respectfully, I'll deal with that when the time comes.
Will, thank you so much for taking the time, sitting down with me. I know getting back into the mix and back into road life and all that, but I'm very excited to see this version of Will Hobbs meets Will Hobson and exactly what that means when you're out there kicking some heads in.
Thank you.